Hello, my name's Alan Foom, and today I'm going to talk about why it's important to continue production for the United Kingdom continental shelf and why this is a good thing for the United Kingdom. Now, why is the UKCS important? Well, we've been producing hydrocarbons since the 1970s, both oil and gas, providing a great deal of wealth for Britain, many highly skilled jobs, billions in tax revenue. But there are concerns regarding man-made climate change and a desire to reduce CO2 emissions. Latest IPCC report, COP26 coming up in Glasgow, etc. And there have been quite strident calls for so-called climate leadership, which is basically end all fossil fuel developments in the UK. And this is to make Britain an exemplar amongst other countries. Now, some countries have planned to phase out oil and gas production, most notably Denmark, which has got a gradual phase out till about 2040, 2050, with no new developments but existing developments to be proceeding. And Greenland has also decided to stop further gas exploration, although they have no production and they have had quite a lot of exploration which has been unsuccessful. But there's a clamour for climate leadership to show that we mean what we say we mean. Whether that will actually have any effect is another thing, but clamour for that. However, the UKCS production in the UK has very high HSE performance, does need further improvement, and there are plans to do so. And the UKCS production will decline faster than demand is forecast to fall, increasing our import bills. And many of the countries where we're going to be importing oil and gas from have low environmental standards, more CO2 per barrel, plus the transport costs as well. So let's have a little look at what the future might hold. So the UK Oil and Gas Authority has produced production forecasts, as you can see on this graph. Here you have history. So this is what has happened in the past. UKCS production peaked in 1999, has been declining ever since. And the low point was reached in 2014 at the time the oil price collapse. It's been a little bit of an increase since then, and these are projects that were approved for execution before the 2014 oil price crash. There was quite a lot of capital expenditure during this time. So these projects have now come to fruition. But these projects are now finishing, and you got further decline. So that's the latest figure in 2020. And then a slow gradual decline as many of the older fields are decommissioned, but there's still quite a significant amount being produced even by 2050. Other thing to bear in mind is past performance has tended to be better than previous OGA forecasts. They've tended to be a bit on the conservative side. So why is UK production advantageous? It's less carbon intensive, basically less CO2 per barrel, less flaring, which is a very serious problem. Flaring is when you basically burn off gas, which is associated with oil production. We're cutting down on methane leakage. Methane, again, is a greenhouse gas, and some methane escapes during production, and we're working very hard to try to stop that. For one thing, leaking methane is actually quite dangerous to the people on production platforms, so we're trying to do something to stop this serious problem. There's also going to be less transport-associated CO2. If you're going to be buying oil from Saudi Arabia or Brazil or Nigeria, it's going to have to be shipped in tankers, and tankers emit CO2 while they're doing it. And there's a commitment by the UK oil industry to halve production-related emissions by 2030. Still some way to go. We're working on it. There's also the economic aspect. 270,000 highly skilled jobs, billions in tax revenue. Oil and gas industry comprises 2.5% of UK GDP, not necessarily insignificant. And the UK has had significant trade deficits. If we are to import more oil from overseas, we will have more trade deficits. Again, serious economic problem. Okay, that's production. So what about consumption? Isn't oil going to disappear in terms of demand? Well, no. It's going to reduce, and all the forecasts that you can see here have significant reductions. So peak oil demand was actually in 2005, just before the global financial crisis. It's been declining ever since, and about 2013 it plateaued out. Has increased a little bit since then as part of the economic recovery, and boom, COVID happened. So had a fall, significant fall due to COVID. But all future forecasts have it recovering. But by quite how much? We don't know. So these are two government forecasts. The top one is the base, which is the UK Ministry of Business, Energy, Industrial Strategy. They have a decline, but a very gradual decline. And then at the bottom here, you have the Climate Change Committee, which is a UK government parliamentary body. They're not actually part of the government, they're part of Parliament. And they forecast the net zero pathway, which isn't actually zero. Emphasis on the word net. Even by 2040, we're still going to be needing quite a bit of oil because there are significant sectors where oil cannot be substituted at the moment. So for example, petrochemicals, plastics, fertilizers, quite a lot of industrial processes where you just can't substitute it. There are also other sectors such as aviation, heavy transport, freight, shipping, where substitution is very difficult. So light vehicles, which account for about 30% of UK demand, they can be substituted, and there's a plan by the government to introduce more electric vehicles and to ban internal combustion engine or pure industrial internal combustion engine cars by 2030. But the whole thing will take a while to go through the system. Average age of a car in the UK is about 10 years. So that will take some time. I've also done some work of my own based on the per capita oil consumption and population, and I've got low, mid, and high cases here for the UK. And you can see the low case is about basically 5 years behind what the CCC committee say. Mid case is a bit further back still, and high cases is slightly below where base have it. So this is the situation in terms of demand. Demand will reduce, but it'll still be there. And to just look at what's going to happen in 2040, so that's 2019 demand, the base central case, 83% of 2019, CCC net zero plan, which is 22% of 2019. So still some, okay, 78% full, but there's still some left. And then my low case, mid case, and high case models, which are 37, 48, and 63% respectively. And this little green number here is UKCS Production Forecast for 2040. Significant decline from where we are today, but still a portion. Now, if we can keep this up a bit higher, we can reduce our import bill, and we can have environmentally advantageous oil. Not oil without damage, but oil with less damage. So putting the consumption and production forecasts together, you have the production forecast, production history and forecast, which is here from the OGA, and the forecast we saw in the previous graph, so CCC, my low, mid, and high cases, and the base central case. And the scale of imports to a great extent depends on the demand forecast. Again, you can see there's quite a significant import gap, which is going to cost you dollars, hard currency, and increase the trade deficit. Plus also a lot of this oil, unless it comes from Norway, will be environmentally not very advantageous. More damage than UK oil. So looking at import dependency, you have a situation where you have, that's the history. So that's the blue line here, and you have the different demand cases. Now the y-axis is basically percentage of oil which is imported. So that line here is 100% balance. So above that line, the UK becomes a net oil exporter. Below that line, the UK becomes an oil net importer. So using the high case demand, you import more oil to backfill the supply, and then progressively stepping backwards. But even in the net zero forecast for 2030 here, you will be importing between 37 and 63% of UK oil demand, depending on the different forecasts. The imports will come from countries that are less advantageous, have less safety, less environmental performance, unless we get it all from Norway. I don't know if Norway has quite enough to supply us as well as all the other customers. Oh, and there's geopolitics, by the way. We'll come to that in a minute. So why the need for further investment? What if we just produce what we have? Well, the OGA looked at this, and they had different scenarios with different development plans. So if you had no further investment whatsoever, by 2025, you will fall in production by 50% from what you have now, requiring even further imports from difficult places. Okay, so sum up, If you want to curtail UKCS production, which one of these two gentlemen would you like to import your oil from? Oil demand will reduce, but it's not going to disappear. The UKCS production is declining, will decline even faster without new investment. The UKCS oil is environmentally advantageous. Less damage, not no damage, there's damage, but there's less of it. Oh, and there's geopolitics and economics, various other factors. So support UKCS oil production to limit damage, environmental, economic, geopolitical. Thank you very much.